Distinguished guests, Your Excellencies, ministers, ambassadors, colleagues from the international and national universities, and members of the AUC community, welcome to the inauguration of Dr. Ahmed Dalal as the 13th president of the American University in Cairo. Having visited this campus last spring when the instruction was primarily online, and then walking around the campus this week, I must say it's joyful to be back on a campus that's bustling with life again. Vaccinated, masked, distanced, but coming together again for all the quintessential college experience that you cannot recreate online. Whether you are here with us in the auditorium or watching online, thank you for taking part in this historic occasion. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the three former AUC presidents who are with us here today. Dr. Tom Bartlett, and I would ask them to stand, please. Dr. Tom Bartlett, Dr. Lisa Anderson, and Ambassador Frank Ricciardone. There's a saying that we stand on the shoulders of giants who came before us, and we stand on your shoulders. Thank you. I would also like to recognize two very special people in the audience today and new members of the AUC community. Dalal, President Dalal's wife, and his daughter Kenda. Welcome to Cairo, welcome to AUC. Finally, I'd like to thank my fellow trustees on the stage behind me, many of whom have made the trip to Cairo for the first time in almost 2 years. We too are eager to experience again the interaction that can only come when you are face to face and not behind a screen on a Zoom call. So thank you very much. This is a very special day for our institution. Inaugurating a new president is cause for celebration and a chance to reflect on a powerful legacy and a promising future ahead. It's also an opportunity to reaffirm our core values and renew our commitment to AUC's fundamental mission of service to Egypt and education and research at the highest caliber. Today marks a new chapter in the long and proud history of AUC in Egypt, a history of resilience in the face of world wars, revolutions, foreign invasions, threats of nationalization, economic downturns, strains in Egyptian-American relations, and even a global pandemic that has altered not just how we do things in the near term, but how we think about the future. It's very hard against that backdrop to imagine that it's been over a century since Charles Watson, the university's founding president, set out with an audacious dream of creating an American university in Egypt that he famously described as a bridge of friendliness between the United States and Egypt. In fact, at times, AUC was nearly the only connection between the two countries, and always one of the most enduring bonds. It is a representation of what is considered the U.S.'s best export to the world, the American liberal arts style system of education. And at the same time, a representation of Egypt's role as a vantage point, as a convener and gateway to the region. Since that early vision, AUC has become an intellectual hub in the Middle East and a crossroads for the world's cultures. Even through times of war and regional unrest, AUC's doors have remained open, welcoming foreign students and scholars from around the world to study, learn about Egypt's culture, and immerse themselves in centuries of history. When AUC first opened its doors in 1920, it welcomed its first class of 142 students in classes that were equivalent to the last 2 years of high school and the first 2 years of university. The first commencement was held in 1923 with an all-male graduating class. However, and I say this very proudly, by 1928, AUC welcomed its first female student, Eva Habib al-Masri, more than 40 years before Princeton, Yale, and many other universities welcomed women into their campus. AUC was a trailblazer from the very beginning. Since that time when AUC was a pioneer in admitting female students, the university has remained at the forefront of educating women. The firsts for AUC's women are too many to recount, but I'll mention a few. In 2014, the first PhD graduate from AUC was a woman, Yosra al-Maghrabi, whose thesis focused on sustainable construction materials for desert environments. Just last year, AUC was the first university in Egypt to mandate anti-harassment and non-discrimination training for all faculty, staff, and students. Finally, the university boasts an impressive number of women in leadership positions, and I'll mention just one. Rani Al-Mashat, our current Minister of International Cooperation, is an alum of AUC. In 1951, the last preparatory class graduated, making AUC strictly a university-level institution, and by 1974, the Ministry of Higher Education recognized all but 3 AUC degrees as equivalent to those offered by Egyptian universities. And by the early 1980s, when I personally came to Cairo, came to AUC to learn Arabic, the university was already recognized for the unique role it played in Egypt's higher education landscape, and as an important meeting place for cultural, artistic, and intellectual exchange. Like many of my fellow trustees with me on this stage today, Lori, Gretchen, Paul, Teresa, Richard, and Nathan, AUC was central to how we first discovered Egypt and ultimately created a lifelong affinity for and commitment to this region. Through the 90s and at the turn of the century, AUC embarked on a dream no less ambitious than one of its early founders, the dream of this campus. About a decade and a half later, with the largest use of sandstone since the construction of the pyramids, and in a spot unrecognizable amid the sea of desert sand, this campus emerged. As an anchor for New Cairo and a primary driver of exponential growth in the surrounding community, the New Cairo campus is another resounding testament to the power of AUC and its ability not just to dream, but to realize ambitions well beyond what anyone thought possible. Inside this beautiful campus, and of course on the historic Tahrir campus, lives the region's leading US-accredited liberal arts university, developing global citizens and instilling in them the skills and values they need to tackle not just the challenges, but the opportunities that we face today. Our nearly 7,000 students are learning how to think about complex global issues, from climate change, food and water security, and sustainable development, to the growing power of artificial intelligence and technology in our lives. Their success is foreshadowed by AUC's 42,000 alumni who are already having a disproportionately high impact in their communities and around the world. They form a global network that spans 128 countries and can be found in every field of human endeavor, from scholarly academics, leading diplomats, Egyptian ministers, business leaders, to journalists, entrepreneurs, civil servants, and development workers. Today, as we inaugurate our new president, AUC stands ready to take on another ambitious dream. We are a strong and resilient and truly remarkable institution ready to chart a path for our second century. For this moment, I can think of no better individual to lead AUC into its second century than President Ahmed Dalal, Dr. Ahmed Dalal, soon to be president. Dr. Dalal's academic and administrative acumen, his leadership style, and deep sense of purpose will advance the university and its mission as it navigates an increasingly changing higher education landscape. He is also AUC's first Arab American president. He was born and raised in Lebanon before traveling to the United States, where he became a citizen and spent more than 2 decades studying and teaching at the top universities in the US. Like AUC itself, he is rooted in the region and fully American in his expertise and his experience. Not only is he from the region, more importantly, President Dalal has studied it and understands the history, the culture, the challenges, the ambitions, and the complex nuances. His knowledge and experience in higher education is expansive, and you will find it in the bio that's printed in your programs. From teaching positions at Stanford, Yale, Smith College, and Georgetown, to serving as provost of the American University in Beirut, and most recently as head of Georgetown University in Doha, President Dalal has a deep and varied leadership experience at universities in the United States and in the region. In his spare time, as a prolific scholar, he has written numerous books and lectured widely on learning in medieval and early modern Islamic societies, the development of traditional and exact Islamic sciences, medieval Islamic thought, the early modern evolution of Islamic revivalism and intellectual movements, Islamic law, and the causes and consequences of the September 11 attacks. Perhaps equally or more impressive than his credentials as a scholar and as an accomplished leader is his personal character and integrity. Anyone who has had the chance to see him in action will have seen firsthand his deep commitment to principles and values, his ability to find common ground, and above all, his passion for students and the vital role that universities play as engines of advancement for society. I'm now pleased to welcome His Excellency Dr. Khalid Abdul Ghaffar, the Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research, to make his comments.